The transition from 2.5D to 3D shooters filled the era with dozens of late 90s to early 2000s classics. Quake, System Shock 2, Half-Life, Deus Ex. Quake followed the formula of other similar shooters before it, but those other three titles were something different. Cutscenes, in-game scripted events. What used to be spawning in weapon in hand with monsters to shoot at was replaced by a drawn-out sequence to set the stage. It was now common to have slower-paced levels mixed in, to have environmental storytelling and in-game NPCs to help build the world around you. Games were shaking up to be bigger, immersive experiences. These games told stories in only ways video games could tell. The era of the cinematic video game was rising. But that doesn't mean a market for more traditionally styled FPS games didn't exist. The aforementioned Quake was a smash hit. So is its sequel Quake 2. But whether it be a more fast-paced key hunting or cinematic story-driven shooter, Serious Sam still broke the mold. But how could Serious Sam ignore the trends and still find success? In 1996, Croatian studio Crow Team began to work on a first-person shooter. Crow Team couldn't afford to license an already established engine for the game, but with key programmers on the team, they decided to make their own. They called it the Escape 3D engine. But what would eventually become Serious Sam began as a dark, fast-paced shooter titled In the Flesh, taking place in twisted arenas, bleak castles, and even hell. Quake and Doom's inspiration was clear. Crow Team promised 20+ enemies and the ability to dismember them. Destructible environments, haze, fog, and colored lighting. Cut enemy files still remained in the files of Serious Sam, while others made the jump over to the finished product. But for whatever reason, Crow Team opted to change the art direction to a more cartoonish environment style. As for the new name, well, the director said the title, Serious Sam, came to him in a dream. They decided to release an alpha build demo for Serious Sam. This way they could test on hardware that wasn't available to them. The demo garnered a lot of attention. The game was clearly a fresh take on the genre at the time. The graphics were phenomenal, and it definitely helped out that Crow Team was interviewed by Old Man Murray. Soon after, they updated and released another test demo of Serious Sam, getting similar attention, and letting the world know that Serious Sam was ready to soon release. Steady development, good playtest, and successful results. But what was it about Serious Sam that hooked people in? I think it's important to briefly explain Serious Sam's story, as unimportant as that might be. I think it's still interesting, but with Serious Sam rubbing shoulders with all these story-driven games, Serious Sam had to at least give us something. The world is being taken over by aliens, led by a leader we never see, Mental. Sam is seen as a symbol of human resistance since he has done nothing but fight back and win against the invaders, but the humans are in too deep, and find a way to send Sam back in time to stop the invasion from happening in the first place. A simple story, that's fine. Serious Sam isn't defined by its story, it's defined by its gameplay. Serious Sam is different from other shooters at the time because it focuses on hordes and huge open arenas. Other shooters can be maze-like, have monster closets and key hunting. Level design was key for these games. Serious Sam throws some of that out the window. Of course the levels are crafted well and some of them are reminiscent of other shooters, but in my opinion Serious Sam's levels are more simplified, and surprisingly it works. You see, with all this room to move around in, there's bound to be heaps of enemies, and lots of other shooters you can outrun your enemies, making it easy to run into the nearest room you've already emptied out and hopefully collect yourself, but in Serious Sam, nearly all the enemies can outrun you. This makes Serious Sam's enemy priority my favorite in any game. You have to kill the right enemies first and do it fast, or else you get swarmed and die. Now Serious Sam isn't afraid to throw the same enemy type at you. I mean, seriously. But what really matters is when different combinations of enemies are after you. This enemy design works so unbelievably well. A Serious Sam room can just be a box or a corridor, but because of its enemy roster, that works. It's almost like formulas you need to get down to truly understand the best ways to take out enemies. Juking out the clears and blowing a heartbeat out of the sky can be super engaging, but when you are doing that with tons of other enemies chasing you down, it's pure exhilarating. That's probably the best word to describe this game. It gets your blood pumping. Serious Sam sometimes gets put off as just a mindless shooter. Hell, I wouldn't really blame you for thinking that if you're familiar with my Prey video. I just went from talking about one of the most in-depth, immersive sim games out there to a simple horde shooter. But I assure you, Serious Sam is anything but. It takes genuine skill to get good and move along in Serious Sam. The graphics of the game, while maybe not looking as impressive as some today, were phenomenal at the time. The game even has special levels to show off what the engine can do. These lens flares may overstay their welcome at points, but they sure do look good. For the time the game came out in, having all these different graphic options were rare. Crow Team was really hard set on letting this game run on a variety of system types, and I'm sure glad it ran on mine growing up. Serious Sam is a very unforgiving game. Not unforgiving in the sense of a game like System Shock, not even unforgiving in the same way as a game like Blood is, and a lot of other boomer shooters. Enemy placement is very important to learn if you want to master them. In games like Deus Ex and System Shock, not only is enemy placement important, but so is level familiarity. It's very easy to get lost in such open-ended levels, and the game won't help you at all with that. But those games are very non-linear games. Serious Sam is pretty straightforward, unless you're pressing the S key. So in what sense is Serious Sam so unforgiving? Well, not only is the enemy encounter so fun and exhilarating, they are also brutal. You can be run down by giant werewolves and clear skeletons, all while hit-scanning scorpions are firing at you from insane distances and elevation. All while you have to think about who's important to shoot at, dodging whatever non-hit scan projectile is thrown at you, thinking about which weapon to use, and making sure you aren't going to bump into whatever wall is behind you. All the jump dodging, circle strafing, zigzagging the game makes you do makes the movement feel so captivating. Serious Sam's gameplay is iconic, because despite all the space in these levels, you still feel so claustrophobic with no breathing room. The game is very generous with health, ammo, and armor pickups. Hell, you don't even have to reload most of your weapons. There is such beauty in the idea that you can just keep shooting. The levels are easy to navigate, and the mechanics are fairly easy to get a grasping of. But I'd have an easier time playing Blood on the highest difficulty than I would Serious Sam, and if you played Blood, then you know how crazy that is. Serious Sam is a prime example of simple gameplay doesn't have to mean it's easy gameplay, and it can still be fun. Of course, similarities to other games definitely exist. Sam is much more reminiscent of Duke Nukem, and the two have even gone and cracked fun at each other between games. The guns, while fun to use, aren't super unique. But I tell you these things not as critiques, but as showing how Serious Sam built upon the features that were in before it. In the lineage of major FPS games, Serious Sam might not be as influential, but it came out during a time of innovation, and by God it innovated.